So is anybody even excited anymore about the Lexus GX550? I'm not. The cheap interior, the assorted cost cutting all across. But one of the biggest things that bugs me that nobody talks about is that they killed the Lexus GX and they killed the 4Runner.
Yeah, baby! Turn into that you might be passenger. Oh, did it? Oh, oh boy, big one.
I'm talking about the wheelbase of the Lexus GX550. It's no longer what the Lexus GX used to be, which was a short wheelbase Landcruiser. The Prado 150, aka Lexus GX470, was not a cheaper Landcruiser, it was a smaller Landcruiser. And that smallness came from the shorter wheelbase, which is more beneficial to people who actually off-road their Landcruisers. Now, if you're having trouble wrapping your head around this, think of the 4-door Jeep Wrangler Rubicon versus the 2-door Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. One is not trying to be cheaper or more expensive than the other. One is short wheelbase and one is long wheelbase. That's what the old GX460 Prado 150 was. Now with the Lexus GX550, you only have one choice, and that's that longer 112-inch big Landcruiser wheelbase. Nobody is saying this. The 4Runner is dead. The Lexus GX is dead because the defining feature of those two vehicles was the short wheelbase relative to the Landcruiser 200. Now, of course, the FJ Cruiser was even a shorter wheelbase. We all know what happened. Toyota got cheap. They made one Landcruiser, the Landcruiser 300 GR Sport, in the world market and cut it up into 10 pieces and 20 pieces and gave it 30 or 40 different names across 8 different models, blah, blah, blah. Every single last Toyota truck or SUV is based on this TNGA-F platform. In the past, the GX was on its own dedicated short wheelbase Landcruiser platform. Not cheap Landcruiser, short wheelbase Landcruiser. Now with the Lexus GX550, we have a cheap Landcruiser. Now, to some people, they may not care about the wheelbase of the Landcruiser, but it is common off-road knowledge that the shorter the wheelbase, the better off-road. And so now that core defining feature of the old GX and the 4Runner is now gone forever. Even though the 4Runner, the GX, and the Landcruiser Prado have been out for decades now, it still needs to be explained to some people that the Lexus GX470 has a shorter wheelbase than a 4-door Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. We get comments on this channel all the time. You're comparing that big wheelbase Lexus GX470 to the short wheelbase 4-door Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. No. The Lexus GX460 and 4Runner have a shorter wheelbase. That's why they are absolute mountain goats off-road. And so now you can say goodbye to that old short wheelbase in your GX550 and in your 4Runner. It's gone, and Toyota and Lexus are hoping you don't notice or care. Which leads me to my second gripe, which is the ridiculous Lexus body design or low-hanging plastic nonsense. It is so old and played out at this point. It's time for Lexus to chill out, stop, put it in reverse, and go back to what they used to do with the old Lexus LX 450 that was triple locked and had nice high body clearances, no low-hanging plastic, and went everywhere. right out of the box. The last generation or so of Toyotas, everybody who's wanted to do, quote, real off-roading has had to cut the bumpers, including us. Cut the front, cut the sides, cut the rear, put your skid plates on just to get those body clearances back to where they were 30 years ago. Why on earth does the 1996 RAV4 have an approach angle like a Jeep Wrangler, but the current Lexus GX550 has an approach angle of a Ferrari? It's getting played out, Lexus. They've got to chill and go back to their roots, because it's keeping people like me from considering the new stuff until they figure out this plastic garbage nonsense. Yes, we are addicted to Japanese reliability, and we know better not to go over to Mercedes or Ineos or Chrysler. But when you look at the Jeep Wrangler's body clearances, when you look at the Ineos body clearances, when you look at the G-Wagon body clearances, you start to feel like you want to cheat on Lexus a little bit, because you're looking over there going, man, they don't have to worry about cutting bumpers and playing this stupid game with a multi-tool or a Sawzall and a bunch of edge trim and playing around with stupid Chinese steel aftermarket bumpers and all this over-glamping steel bumper. No, it's old. It's played out. I also didn't like how Lexus wasn't really forthright or fully transparent, shall we say, with the fact that the Lexus GX550 frame is not the same as the Landcruiser 300 GR Sport frame. It is thinner, it is lighter, the control arms are different. There's all sorts of differences, and to some that might not be a surprise. It's cheaper, so therefore there's got to be cost saving somewhere, blah blah blah. But again, the old GX/Prado 150 was not a cost savings measure. It was simply to make the thing smaller so people could actually off-road it. Indeed, the whole point of the Prado 150 was the Landcruiser 200, the full-size Landcruiser, was getting too big and fancy for people to do any, quote, real off-roading with it. So the engineer said, hey, let's make the wheelbase shorter. Let's put on KDSS, front and rear disconnectable sway bars on that sucker. Yes, the disconnectable sway bars came out on the Prado first, not the full-size Landcruiser. But Toyota and Lexus have strayed too far from that old school, hey, make this for people who are going to off-road it for real mentality. Nope, it's just dressed up in the aggressive, muscular, blah, blah, blah. You know, trendy today, old, played out beater tomorrow type of impulsive marketing. Hey, it looks cool and it has a television on the dashboard. That's where we're at. That's the reality of Toyota and Lexus today. So I know I've been whining about the wheelbase of this GX550, and again, that may not strike some people as something to even be on their radar. But when you're using a Landcruiser to off-road, aka for its intended use, wheelbase is everything, and the old GX470, Prado 150, and FJ already had it figured out. They already figured out a shorter wheelbase 7-seater that works just fine for what it is. The only reason Toyota decided to elongate the wheelbase on the GX550 is because they were too cheap and lazy to say, you know what, let's stay true to the GX. Let's stay true to the Prado. Let's stay true to the 4Runner and give those people that 109 point whatever shorter wheelbase so they can actually have fun off-roading. Let's not give them that 112 point whatever longer wheelbase that we knew back then with the Landcruiser 200 was getting too big to do any, quote, real off-roading. But nope, somebody at Toyota said, no, we're not cutting that wheelbase down. They're getting that 112 inches of wheelbase that everybody else gets, and they'll figure it out. Now, some nerd inevitably is going to say, well, hold on, the new GX550 has better approach, departure, and breakover angles, therefore negating the whole issue of the longer wheelbase. And they would be correct. However, imagine if all those cardinal angles that were improved in the GX550 were packaged in the same 109-inch wheelbase as the outgoing 4Runner or GX460. Now imagine those cardinal angles and what you could do off-road with that. So that to me is like a missed opportunity. You made the thing have more ground clearance. You made it fit bigger tires. You fixed the approach angle, kinda, and you fixed the departure angle, kinda. Now imagine that in the shorter wheelbase, and we've got something to talk about now. But no, they decided to cheap out and keep the 112-inch wheelbase that all the other Toyota trucks and SUVs get. And so these improved approach departure breakover angles are just marginal improvements at best. Virtually everything about the Landcruiser 300 and the GX550 is an improvement insofar as off-road features versus the outgoing Lexus GX470. And so we're truly splitting hairs here. But imagine if Toyota put that on their traditional 109-inch wheelbase with all that stuff I just mentioned. It's like they were this close to really hitting the mark, and then they got scared. Just like they were too afraid to call this thing the Lexus GX350 TT, you know, named after the actual engine displacement like the old GXs. No, they thought Americans were dumb, and if the number went down to 350 TT for 3.5 twin turbo, that dumb Americans will go, wow, 460's higher than 350, so is this a downgrade? This is the kind of dumb donkey marketing that is dancing around Lexus headquarters that we can see is too much focused on marketing bullocks and insulting the intelligence of the buyer versus valuing the intelligence of a Lexus or Toyota buyer, acknowledging, hey, these people are smart. They get it. It's named after the engine displacement, and they want a vehicle that's going to be better off-road versus the outgoing generation. No. Instead, it's, nope, give them man-child exterior design. That'll trigger them, and then they won't realize that it has the interior of a Kia. And so far, Lexus is probably right. They know that their target market is going to get triggered by newness. The majority of comments on any vehicle are always revolving around, how does it look? It looks cool. When it comes to the masses, the form takes priority over function. Therefore, I think the overall dilution of the Landcruiser 300 platform comes down to Lexus and Toyota and all truck manufacturers honestly seeing what they can get away with and for how much and for how long. Will we get a short wheelbase updated new Toyota FJ Cruiser or short wheelbase GX that doesn't have a bunch of purposely inhibiting plastic junk hanging all over it that you have to cut? Probably not anytime soon, because I'm certain that Lexus did market research, extensive market research, and they determined when they show car A and car B, car A has proper approach, departure, and breakover angles, and car B has a bunch of low-hanging plastic that looks cool. 99% of market test subjects pick the one that with the plastic that looks cool.